So as you can hear, this is one hell of a windy day. Look at the sand just barreling across, it is fierce. Needless to say, I am not taking the inflatable out in this. It is not worth it. In all honesty, I'm pretty confident that this wind would flip it. I could barely keep my eyes open on the beach, and I'm not prepared to even blow the inflatable up, let alone sit in it on the water. If you have a look at the sky, it is just not pleasant. The weather coming straight over the mountains was not good. When you see sand barreling across into the estuary as you do here, that should be a sign that you're new. I took a trip down into the pier and had a look down and saw what the boats were doing. You know, these boats, every single one of these boats is bigger than my 17-foot boat. These are about 21, 22 foot more, and the way those anchors are pulling, it's gnarly. It looks awesome to see, it really does, but so we've left Abu Dhabi Beach. It was horrendous as you saw from the photos. So what we're going to do today is Maintenance Monday. Now there's two things. We've got two motors here. We've got the 4 horsepower and the 2.5. Next to it that you can't see is the 6 horsepower. When we last used this on the River Weaver, I was showing you it working. What I didn't show you was when I tried to let it idle, it was cutting out. It is a very common problem. And one thing I did mention to you in the video was one thing that I find key is that an engine idles. You need to have low speed maneuverability. If you don't, it doesn't work. So what we're going to do now is we're just going to show you how very easy it is in your own garage to set a rig up like this and sort out the idle problem on your motor. So all we have at the moment is a great big wooden bar in a vise on the workbench. These two motors are on one side of the vise, the Tohatsu's on the other side of the vise, just to even up the weight. I've just got a wooden board here and a rubber flexible bucket. I'm going to fill the rubber flexible bucket up with water, and then the Telltale, to save me drowning the garage, I'm just going to catch it in another bucket and carry on just doing it like that. I'm going to leave the garage door open at the moment just to, well, so I don't kill myself. That should do it. This garage is very cluttered. I deliberately haven't tidied it as I normally would. The reason being, this is actually indicative of pretty much everybody's garage. So what I'm trying to do is show you how easy it is to get out there, maintain your boats, your equipment without an awful lot of space or a workshop. You can do it with very, very little space. The next thing to do is to start this and see what we get. So what I've done is I've taken the spark plug out to have a look at this rough idle. It just wouldn't hold an idle at all. It may be quite hard to see it here, but what we've got is a very, very black and fouled looking spark plug. Now, this is one of the things it lists in the manual, believe it or not. So that's the first thing we'll try. We'll clean it up. So all I've done now is closed the gap slightly and cleaned up the spark plug. I haven't replaced it, I've just cleaned it and closed the gap slightly. I've got no idea if this is going to work, but here's for just trying stuff. Not quite as good, maybe. You know what I think it needs? I think it needs a bloody good run down the river. Clean this all out, see what it's got. You in the garage. Now the reason I've come out here onto the river is I'm going to see, before I disassemble the carburettor, and we'll probably have to do that in another video if we're going to do that, but what I want to see is if a good old Italian tune-up will actually help it. So what happens? The petrol, when you stop it, sits in the carburettor, it sits in the bowl, and all that happens is it goes into a sort of a varnishy, a kind of gloopy state. That can clog up the idle jet or the fast running jet, or just generally cause problems. Now, one way to solve this is every time you finish using your motor, you switch the fuel tap on the motor off and you run it till it cuts out. That means there's no more fuel in the carburettor, and that is what I always tend to do. The problem you have with these motors is it starts, it runs. I've come all the way from the car park all the way over to the other side of the flash and it runs fine, but it's not the first time I've had this problem, and it happens with other motors as well. So I think the idea now is to start it up and full throttle just around the flash for a bit and see what happens. Now, it could be one of other things. It could be the idle screw. It just needs tightening and adjust the idle. What you've got to be careful of in doing that, though, is that you don't set the idle too fast. When you do that, although it seems like you have solved all your problems, when you engage the gear, you can destroy the dog clutch. Not all in one go, but over time, it just starts to go. Anyway, we're drifting. I've had a pretty adrenaline-filled morning. Okay, so I get to the River Weaver in the dark. This is good. I don't test the motor. I haven't checked the fuel. But I'm keen to get out, so I notice the water level's a bit higher, there's a bit of debris, and I merrily row my way out. Very, very shortly, the river current from all the flooding is going to catch me, and it takes me and the dinghy, you can see it now, starting to take me down the river. This is me now starting to think maybe I should start the motor. And I do start the motor. Starting it's not the problem. If you remember, the idle hasn't been sorted. So at the moment it's running basically on the choke alone, just trying to keep it going. And when it's running that fast, you can't engage it. You can't engage the gear at all. So now I'm trying to turn the boat around with the oars and frantically, with the engine half running, half not, trying my best. And now this is where I start to really think I could end up right down at the bottom of the river, because I can't row against this. The engine's not starting, and I am bending. The oars are flexing, trying to fight this current. And in honesty, I'm still going backwards. I'm going back down the river. There is nothing I can do. So before we end this clip, this is what I did, and this is the trouble with these motors, because this is what everybody does. This motor has no starting gear protection, so the only way you can really do it when it won't do this, and you really need it, is you start the motor in gear with the choke. What you do then is, because you are running, you can use the throttle up to full throttle, and you then start to feather the choke in. It's not ideal. Thankfully, I knew what I was doing with it, but stupidly, I got myself into that situation anyway. I started to go down the river instead of coming up the Flash, and for some reason, after all this rainfall, it is flowing massively quickly. I could barely row to get back out of the stream. In fact, I couldn't. I had to start the motor and just hope that it was going to start, which thankfully it did. But we won't be going down the river, not with this, not until this idle problem is solved, because if it's not solved, it's not usable. And this is what I've always been saying. If it doesn't run properly, you might as well not use it at all. Anyway, let's get it started and get going. There's nothing like this. This is a properly crisp morning. There's frost on the car, there's frost everywhere. My ears are cold, I mean hugely cold. And what better way to start the morning than this? You can't get better. At the moment, I've given it a bit of a blast. The trouble is, you know, this is a big boat and I don't think the revs are quite probably getting up to speed. However, if you see it here, I've got it on a low idle, but it's not all the way back. The handle's not all the way back here, and it's just it's struggling, but we'll try speeding it up a bit in a minute and see what happens, and really just go from there and try and then bring it back down again and just give it a run. And then when this tank is empty, I'm going to fill it up again and do it all over again. I just think sometimes they could do with a bit of use, and sitting in my garage, it doesn't do it any good at all. It's a frosty morning. If you have a look behind me now, I'm sure I'm keeping the caravans awake. Hopefully not. I'm not trying to keep them awake, but everyone should be awake at this time. It's immense. I love this time. It's better at the coast, but it's equally as good here. The wildlife, it really is. I tell you what, this is exactly how the mornings make me feel. It is like, in the middle of the night, someone came and reset the world. Everything smells cleaner, there's no pollution in the air, there's mist on the water. It's like a clean slate, and I love that. I love that. What I don't love though is why my motor's not working. I really want my motor to work properly, especially given everything I say about if it doesn't work at low speed, there's no point having it. This is especially true. So let's go again and see what we've got. It certainly picks up all right though. Keep on trying and I'll see you in a few minutes. I thought for a second I'd managed it, but no, it cut out. So back to the drawing board. I don't think this Italian tune-up's going to work at all. I don't know what to suggest. I really think this carburetor is going to have to come to pieces, and that's just going to be another video, but it's a bit disappointing. It's a bit disappointing, definitely. I'll tell you what you do need though on a day like this, a good pair of socks. I don't know if anyone else is the same, but when I'm in the dinghy, I never wear shoes. I only wear my socks. I just don't want the dirt on it, really. And these are Hot Tog socks. Not sponsored. And they are brilliant. They keep you properly toasty and warm. Not big, you just single layer, perfect. Anyway, let's start this thing up and see what we've got. I suspect, I've just managed to steal a morning on the water, which is probably what I was just trying to do anyway. But let's start her up and take her back. Might actually top it up with fuel. That's the thing to do. This is what we're going to do. We're going to top it up with fuel because at least I know it's running, and I'm going to do everything I say you shouldn't do. We're going to go down the river and find out why it's flowing so fast, and hopefully it won't die. Although I have no faith in this motor at all. Absolutely no faith. I should do. They're meant to be brilliant motors. It pushes the boat fine. I want to love it, but at the moment, while it's not idling, I have very little faith. And that's bad. So here we are. Let's top it up with some fuel, because we don't want to be running out of fuel with the fast flowing river. And then head down to the river, give these caravans a bit of a break. The wildlife is just amazing at this time in the morning. It really is. You've got the steam, the mist rising off the water. It really is fantastic. And I'd certainly say that since I've had this problem with it, I've put at least a tank through, if not a tank and a half. It should be enough to clear the jets, if that's the problem. However, there is a way around it so you don't destroy the dog clutch. And that is to start it in gear. Big no-no in just about every book. Very big no-no. But if you don't have any other choice, then that's, well, I don't want to destroy the clutch. That's it. Although it does start in gear well, maybe it's just the idle screw. Let's go. Holy smokes! I don't know whether I caught that last bit on camera, but I realised why it was flowing so quickly and I couldn't row against it. I went straight down the river thinking, yeah, this would be good. So much debris everywhere, trying to dodge it, and then got caught. I could just feel the boat was caught in the current as it was going round. And it's floodwater. We've had so much rain, it's floodwater, and it was ripping quicker than the Mersey the other week. That was unbelievable. It really got the heart pounding. I suddenly realised, you know, if this motor quit, there is not a chance I'm rowing. It's literally trying to steer to the edge and scramble. Let's go and have a look at the river now, because it's got a serious flow. I don't know if you can see it now. Let's just see whether you can see it now. It's probably quite hard to see, but it really is flowing quite seriously. So let's just nip round to the other side. So let's go and have a look at this, because this is some serious water. I mean, genuinely guys, just have a look at the speed of that water. I turned around just under the bridge, but wow, that's fast. So somebody comment. You probably know what feeds into this river and where it goes and why it's flowing so fast. I'm assuming just floodwater, but if you know, let me know. Boat's behind me. I'm now going to get the van, throw it in, go to work, do all that kind of thing. But I just wanted to say, the Italian tune-up, it didn't work. I'm going to play about with the idle screw. I know I shouldn't. If that doesn't give an idle that I think is acceptable, then we will disassemble the carb. But it was worth seeing whether it would work. You know, it's an easy fix. With the old two-strokes, I think it really did used to work. They rev a lot higher and they get a lot hotter. But no, not for this.